Well, it is great to see you here this weekend as we are in week 3 of a 3-week marriage series. My name's Jeremiah. I'm one of the teaching pastors on staff. And as we're going through this series called Pursuit, I've been excited about the chance to come up here and to share about it. My wife, Marcy, and I, we've been married for 24 years, just crossed that 24 line. And we're kind of students of great marriages. Now, we've got what I think is a really great marriage. I love our marriage. I love what we've built. But we're still always challenged, and we're still always learning. And man, Pastor Keith gave us some great challenge and some great learning over these past couple weeks. But I'm a student of this. I love this. I believe what Keith said. I believe our marriages can be better. And I'm just excited to be able to kind of pick up from where we've been and carry us through the end of this series. And we've been saying a couple things about this. We've been saying it's a PG-13 series, so if you've got kids in here with you, I'm not going to apologize for things they hear from me. That's on you. You can make the choice. Take them to Grace Kids, where we've got great age-appropriate environments for them. We've been saying if you're married, lean in. This is stuff that you can directly apply. We've been saying if you're not married, lean in, because this is stuff that either you're statistically going to find yourself possibly married, or for sure you're going to be in a conversation with a friend or a family member where you're going to be able to coach and encourage them in these things. And we've also said, and if you're not married, pray for the people who are married, because the stuff we're talking about is hard. It's hard getting past being roommates and really having a deep connection. It's hard moving from just falling in love to actually staying in love. It's hard dying to self, the way that Pastor Keith called us to in week 1. That a great marriage requires 2 willing servants who are truly willing to pursue each other, to move toward each other in service. And that every great marriage requires a divorce, and that divorce is the divorce from our selfishness. And that's not easy. That's hard. And so as we pick up kind of from where we've left off, and as we move forward from here, that idea of moving toward one another in service, just by way of review, what's true about it is moving toward one another in service requires the right mindset and the right skill set. Moving toward one another in service requires the right mindset and the right skill set. The mindset, again, is this: I believe our marriage can be better. Because you're not going to do anything if you haven't locked in that mindset. You're not going to be motivated to take on the tough challenges ahead if you don't actually believe it can result in something great. And so I believe our marriage can be better. And then the skill sets. Some of the things we learned last week about communication, about intimacy, about what it really looks like in a marriage to feel seen and supported. I believe our marriage can be better. And then we begin to pack on the skill sets. This week, there's something I want to talk about that I don't think we typically think about as a skill set. But what you'll find as we talk a little further today is that this is a skill that is present in the best marriages that you see. In the marriages that you're jealous of, that you go, man, I want what they have. This is part of what they have. Stop real quick and tell just kind of a story to catch up. It was about 18 months ago that we got a flyer from Rural King at our house that had this cute little picture of baby chicks on it. And my kids saw the flyer. And they were like, "Aw." And my wife saw the flyer. And she was like, "Aw." Only hours later, we're at Rural King, right? And you're looking down into the little tubs, and the kids are picking out, okay, what chicks are we going to get? Because we live a little bit out in the country in Pataskala. Our neighborhood doesn't have an HOA, so we can kind of do what we want. And so we decided what we want is to do this little backyard chickens thing. So we're just going to get some of these chickens, and we're picking out the chickens, and we're getting the feeders, and we're getting the waterers, and we're starting to Google what it takes to take care of chickens. And as we bring them home, this is what's true. I knew what we were getting into. I knew we were going to get into you got to feed them, and you got to water them. You got to clean up their chicken poop. You got to do all these things to take care of them and make sure they stay healthy. And you're going to have from here on chicken chores. And we're going to be fighting with our kids about the chicken chores and reminding them to do the chicken chores and all that. I knew that. But I also thought that we would have these moments that my kids kind of promised me that we would have, which is kind of like the picture on the flyer that Rural King sent us. This cute little kid holding the chicken, smiling, looking so happy. Well, here we are 18 months later, and those chickens have delivered on the chores. What they haven't delivered on are these moments of the kids being so happy to go out there and play with the chickens and all the joy that they bring to their life. And my wife, after a long day's work, wanting to go and sit down and just watch them kind of peck around, because what's more relaxing than that? We've got the chickens and we've got the chores, but we don't have kind of the enjoyable stuff that I thought would come along with it. Now, this is not a message about chickens, okay? Don't worry. This is a message about marriage, and so it's not going to be real hard for me to draw the lines. We all stood at a place where we were like, I'll sign up for that. I'll sign up for marriage. I'll look ahead to marriage. And listen, none of us were dumb when we were looking ahead to marriage. We knew it would take work. Everybody told you it's gonna take work, and you knew that you were signing up for it. And that work would be the kind of work of like the daily grind of making life go, and you'll have to have a home together, and you have to have jobs, and you have to have a family together, and you have to do all of those things. And I said it like this: we expected marriage to be functional. Again, you weren't dumb. You expected that it was going to be that way. Marriage is going to be functional, but that's not all we expected. We also expected more. We thought that it was going to deliver even more than that. We thought on top of functional, we expected it also to be fun. We knew it was going to be functional, but we also believed that it was going to be fun. And if I'm here today and I'm saying the reason we're having this conversation at all is because more often than not, more marriages are not delivering on one of these, I bet you can't guess which one we're going to start talking about. Because the reality is functional is still there for so many of us, but fun is at risk. Fun is threatened all the time. And there's a lot of things in our lives that threaten kind of the fun in our marriage, like the time in together and you start to get into ruts. The complication of just doing suburban life and how busy it makes us. The comparison of looking at other marriages and they seem to have it so good, and why can't she be or why can't he be more like that? The kids, and they want the world to just revolve around them. The schedules and the finances and the stresses, and in all of these things, what's true is for all of us who signed up for marriage, we have an uphill battle to try to keep it fun. We have an uphill battle to try to have it be what we believed it would be. And for many of us, we feel today like we're in some way losing that battle. And often life kind of makes us have to choose functional or fun, functional or fun. Which one are you going to have to do? Because there's not enough money for both. There's not enough time for both. There's not enough. And when we have to choose, we choose functional. We choose survival. But the result of time after time choosing functional, leaving fun behind, choosing functional, and it's not so fun. After a while, here's what's true in our marriages. We find ourselves doing marriage, but no longer enjoying marriage. We find ourselves doing marriage, but no longer enjoying marriage. We look back and we're not quite sure when exactly it happened, but we realize in this pursuit of each other, we stopped pursuing enjoying each other. We're doing marriage, but we're not enjoying marriage. And some of you, listen, you're good at doing marriage. You've synced your calendars on Google. And so you can tell when she puts a meeting for you on the calendar. Like you've been able to make like the money work, and not only does it pay the bills, but also there's a little going into savings. Like you've figured out what's going on with the kids and their schedules and all the things, and you still can have a little of his time and a little of her time. You're good at doing marriage. But the thing maybe that's fallen off is you're not good at enjoying marriage. And you knew at the beginning, like it wasn't always going to stay new. But you also didn't think it was going to get like this old. This routine, this just functional. And the thing is, I think when we arrive at this place, and so many of us, like, we're feeling this on some level. You might say today, boy, marriage is pretty good and I feel that a little bit. Or you're like, man, it's really hard and I feel that a lot. We're all feeling this on some level. The question is, what do we do with that feeling? Because I think for many of us, if we were actually pressed, you'd go, I've kind of heard it's supposed to be this way. Like I've heard that it just kind of devolves to that, and eventually we all just kind of end up in this place where we're doing marriage but not enjoying marriage. So the messages of society, they sure say so. That like after a while the enjoyment is going to go down. I've said this before in a message I preached, but there was a time Marcy and I were in a bank line. We had been married about 6 months and we were laughing at something. The lady in front of us said, oh, that's cute. How long you guys been married? We said 6 months. She said, you just wait. The messages in society, they tell us this is normal. Even the Christian messages that we hear, if we're not careful, they can be pretty confusing because we hear things like God wants you holy, not happy. God wants in your marriage, through your marriage, for you to become holy, not happy. Now listen, it is 1,000,000% true that God wants to use your marriage to make you more holy. But does God want you in your marriage not happy? Like, did God give you your spouse to be a thorn in your flesh, to push you down and suck the life out of you so that you would come crawling to Jesus for help so that he could finally make you more holy? Some of you thought that was your job. If you're feeling today like marriage is pretty good, then should you start to wonder, like, when's the hammer going to fall? When is it going to normalize and become kind of stale like everybody else's? And if you're feeling today like marriage is pretty hard, it's functional, it's not fun, then should you think today, yep, this is just the way it is? And I think ultimately the question we got to answer is, what does God have to say about that? What is God's design and intent for our marriages? To get to that, I'm going to go to a book that's kind of a little bit obscure. We don't teach on it a whole bunch. We're going to go in a few minutes to the book of Ecclesiastes. Ecclesiastes is the book that if you've heard that there is a time for everything and a season for everything under the sun, it's that book. If last week, Pastor Keith's message from the Song of Solomon, if you kind of grew up hearing the Bible, you're like, oh, that's that weird Old Testament sexy book. Then Ecclesiastes is that weird Old Testament depressing book. It's that one that when you hear about it, you're hearing from a guy that you go, man, this is not a pick-me-up. This is not like a winter read in the darkness of the Midwest. Ecclesiastes is a really interesting book. It's one that's written by somebody who just calls himself the teacher. He says he's a descendant of King David. And the biggest thing that he says I really bring to the scene and I want you to lean in is life experience. Like, I've experienced life and I'm here to teach you and I'm here to tell you about it. And over the course of the book, he wrestles with kind of two big things. He wrestles with life and how hard life is and how unstable life is. And then he wrestles with death and just how certain and sudden death can be. And out of both of those things, he comes to this place where he goes, you know what? I've wrestled with life and its mysteries. I've wrestled with death and its mysteries. And I've just concluded that this is what's true about all of that stuff. And maybe you've heard this before. He says, life is meaningless. Meaningless. Now, I don't mean meaningless like we should all just give up and go home and quit trying. The Hebrew word for this is hevel. It's a word that means like it's tricky. It's an enigma. It's hard to get your hands around. It's a vapor. It's like as soon as you start to kind of figure it out, it throws a curveball and it just twists right out of your hands. And he's like, life is something I've just discovered through years of living that like you can't figure it out. You can't crack the code. You can't ever feel like you're really winning at it because as soon as you are, something bad happens. And then as soon as you think something should go good, it doesn't. And he's like, I don't know what to do all of this. Life is just meaningless. And so wealth is meaningless and power is meaningless and popularity is meaningless and even wisdom can kind of feel meaningless. And this guy is probably not the guy you want a road trip with. Like, I don't think he gets invited to a whole bunch of kids' birthday parties as like an entertainer, He's like the worst hype man in history. I say life is, you say meaningless. Like you would never want to like spend a bunch of time with this, but can I just press on this a little bit? Is he right? Like, has your life experience shown you that life is hard and life is unpredictable? And anytime you've encountered death, you've walked away from it going, too soon. And he's like, that's what I'm wrestling with, and that's what we're all feeling. He felt it then, we feel it now. And so out of that, I'm going to paint a little bit of a picture of kind of some things he says. In light of all that, here's how to live wisely. We're going to go quickly past a couple of them, then we're going to camp in one of them. Here's how to live wisely. Number one, don't try to find your satisfaction in the meaningless stuff. Don't try to satisfy your soul on the stuff of this earth that's only going to go away. Satisfy your soul in the one who's going to ultimately make everything right. Number two, honor God and keep his commands. Fear the Lord and keep his commands because you want to be right with the one who's going to make it all right. And then he gets to number three, and this is where we're going to ground ourselves. This is where we're going to bring it back to the idea of marriage. He goes, you know what else you ought to do in light of the fact that life is hard and life is uncertain and death is imminent? You ought to not miss the chances to enjoy what is good about it. Don't miss the chances to stop and smell the flowers along the way. Don't miss the chances to enjoy. And he goes through these different calls to enjoyment over the course of the book. Don't miss the chance to enjoy good friendship. Don't miss the chance to enjoy good weather. Don't miss the chance to enjoy good food. Don't miss the chance to enjoy a good, hard day's work and the satisfaction that comes from those things, because not everything's bad. Not everything's hard. Not everything is mysterious. Some things are good. And he calls us to enjoy those things while we can. And we're going to jump into his longest call to enjoyment and the thing he pushes forward that we probably can get the most enjoyment out of. So we're going to Ecclesiastes chapter 9, verse 7. And we pick it up here. And he says this, go. So he's like, in light of this, okay, in light of the fact that life is hard, life is unpredictable, death is certain, he gives this command that means go right now. So in light of all this, here's what you should do. Go. And he says this, eat your food with gladness and drink your wine with a joyful heart, for God has already approved what you do. He's talking about eating and drinking. He's talking about daily things that you just do every day. And then he says your posture toward them ought to be gladness and joy. Just kind of the daily 3 squares a day, 7 days a week, 52 weeks a year, on it goes. You do these things all the time over and over. And he's like, instead of considering that like monotonous and boring and negative, consider it good. There's kind of 3 categories of things we experience in life. Good things, kind of neutral things, and bad things. And most of life is the neutral stuff. But here's what happens. We get through a day of like doing the neutral stuff, like taking out the trash, sorting through the bills, folding the laundry, driving to work, putting gas in the car, feeding the kids, and you go, how was your day? And you're like, ugh. That's not bad stuff. He goes, there is bad stuff. That's not bad stuff. When you encounter the normal, everyday stuff of life, you know the posture you should encounter it with? Gladness, joy. Because if it's not bad, it's good. And he goes, eat your food with gladness, drink your wine with a joyful heart. Posture yourself toward the normal, everyday stuff of life with a positive posture. He continues and he says this, always be clothed in white and always anoint your head with oil. White is the color they would wear in this culture to like a wedding or a party or a birthday, some sort of a celebration. And always anoint your head with oil. Oil is what they use to make their face look better, like makeup, and make themselves smell good, like perfume. So he's like, always be wearing your best clothes and be dolled up to go out on the town. That's what he's saying. In light of the fact that life is hard, life is unpredictable, life is short, party a bunch. Like, have fun where you can have fun. Go out on the town frequently. And these are things that, like, we do sometimes, and he's like, yeah, do them always. Now, I don't mean always like you never take off your high heels. But I mean always as in, you know those summers where you're like, man, we are always at a graduation party or a wedding or whatever. Like, it just feels like we're just celebrating something or someone all the time. He's like, yeah, do that. Do that in the time that you have. Be frequent in all of those kind of things. Then he continues and he says this. Enjoy. Now we're going to get ready to hear what he says to enjoy. But again, in light of the mysteries that he's dealing with and the fact that they're unresolved, listen, he says what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to enjoy. Enjoy what? Enjoy life with your wife. Enjoy life with your wife. Now, he's writing to a man, and so it could just as easily say, enjoy life with your husband. Listen, as you pursue each other, you are supposed to be pursuing, enjoying each other. If you're married and you're sitting by your spouse, look at each other right now and say, we're supposed to enjoy this. You're supposed to enjoy this. You're supposed to enjoy life together. Enjoy life with your wife. Look at this next phrase. Whom you love. Some of y'all need this reminder. Whom you love. Your wife, whom you love. Because sometimes it's a little easy just to like call her the wife, but forget that she's the wife you picked. You got down on your knee, you begged her. You were praying she'd say yes. This is the wife whom you love. Ladies, this is the husband whom you love. What if we just made you all go through the week and you always had to say whom you love after you talk about your spouse? Got to go to the grocery store, pick up the groceries that were forgotten by my husband, whom I love. I don't know, she's got me doing a lot of projects these days. I'll have to find out if I've got time on the calendar. I'll have to check with my wife. Whom I love. Remember this. You love them. You picked them for a reason. You're doing life with them for a reason. And because of that, you're supposed to enjoy life together. He continues and he says this. Remember, this is the teacher. This is the guy who's been there. This is the guy who's seen so much. And he says, it's meaningless. It's hevel. It's hard to get your hands around. Enjoy life with your wife, whom you love, all the days of this meaningless life that God has given you under the sun. All your meaningless days. I'd love to see this incorporated in wedding vows. For this is your lot in life and in your toilsome labor under the sun. Listen, life is meaningless, life is hard, life is uncertain, life is short. And in the midst of it, God's saying, I've given you something that is your lot in life. And you know what it is? It's a chance to enjoy life with your spouse. But here's what some of us have done. We've taken life with your wife and we've put it in this category, toilsome labor under the sun. You think that is what's meaningless, that is what's burdensome, that is what's hard. No, he's saying your chance to live life with the person I've given you is to stand in contrast to what's draining. It's supposed to put life into you. It's not another thing that's toilsome and supposed to drain you. It's something that's supposed to fill you up. It's something that's supposed to encourage you. It is a reprieve. It is a reward, this marriage that he's given you. So enjoy life with your wife. Pursue enjoyment together as a couple. Enjoy your marriage because this is your lot in life. This is the good thing he gave you. This is the good thing he gave you in your toilsome labor under the sun. And he continues with this. Whatever your hand finds to do, do it with all your might. Now you may have heard this verse before, but I've heard it before, and I always applied it to like work and ministry and stuff like that. But look what he's applying it to. Enjoying your marriage. And he says, enjoy your marriage with what? All your might. When's the last time you did anything with all your might? When's the last time you dug deep and gave it everything you had to do something? And he's saying, do that with enjoying each other. Do that with enjoying your marriage. Look at each other right now, married couples, and say, we're supposed to enjoy each other with all our might. What does that look like? I know what he's thinking that looks like. Whatever your hand finds to do, do it with all your might. Now listen, why? And here's where kind of depressing Ecclesiastes comes back and answers the question. Here's why. For in the realm of the dead where you are going, there is neither working nor planning nor knowledge nor wisdom. He's saying this. Enjoy life with your spouse now while you can, because later you'll be dead and you won't be able to. Now, I know that sounds kind of harsh, and that sounds maybe a little bit humorous, but listen, that's facts. You don't know whether you have tomorrow. All you know you have is today, and so he's going today, go now, go big, enjoy your marriage. It's probably another softer way to say it. It might sound a little something like this. If God has given you the gift of a spouse, one of the best gifts you can get this side of eternity. And if God has given you that life partner and that companion and that lover for you to do life with, you know this. Life is short. And it's going to go by so fast. Don't let it go by unappreciated. Don't let it go by unenjoyed. He's saying, squeeze all the good out of this good thing that I've given to you. Because there's a lot of bad things in this world, but your marriage is not one of them. And so enjoy life with your wife. What is God's heart toward marriage? What is God's design and desire for marriage? Marriage is a gift that is meant to be enjoyed. Marriage is a gift that's meant to be enjoyed. Not just enjoyed, not even probably primarily enjoyed. There's a lot of functions of marriage. There are a lot of outcomes that God wants out of your marriage. Procreation, witness, discipleship of children who grow up, the holiness that it's going to produce in you, the ability for both of you together to shine brighter than maybe either of you could have on your own. But listen, also enjoyment. That one of the purposes and reasons why he gives you the gift of marriage is because it is meant to be enjoyed. God's design is that he gives good gifts and we enjoy them. But here's the thing, enjoyment is a choice. The author of Ecclesiastes, the teacher, he said, enjoy life with your spouse. You know why he said it? Because you can choose not to. Nobody ever has to tell you to keep breathing. That is just going to happen. You have to tell people to do things that they have to make the choice to be able to do. And you have to make the choice to enjoy life with your spouse. You have to make the choice to enjoy your marriage, because every married couple here is equal in that we've all been given the gift. We've all been given a gift that's meant to be enjoyed. But the thing that differentiates the happiest situations from the hardest situations in this room is that we've all chosen differently about how we do that. Enjoyment is a choice, and it's up to you. And so what he would say to you is, then what do I do? If marriage is a gift that's meant to be enjoyed, listen, enjoy the gift. Enjoy the gift. Don't just pursue success. Don't just pursue the kids. Don't just pursue retirement. Pursue enjoying each other. Enjoy the gift. I don't know your situation, and I'm going to say something that's a generality, but things become generalities because For the most part, they're true. If your marriage has moved from fun to functional, it's mostly because y'all let it. Because at some point along the way, you stopped really pursuing enjoyment. You stopped really making the choice to enjoy the gift. There are things you can't choose. Life is hard, can't choose it. Life is uncertain, you can't choose it. Life is short, you can't choose it. But you know what you can choose? Enjoy the gift. Enjoy what God has given you. Because God gives good gifts, and marriage is one of the greatest gifts this side of heaven that you should savor, that can bring so much good into your life. And I want to pause right now. And I want to just make sure as I'm talking up marriage, as I'm talking up the gift of this, here's what I want to say. Marriage is a good gift. Marriage is a good thing. Marriage is not the ultimate thing. When we take a good thing and we try to elevate it to the level of an ultimate thing, we start to make a God out of it. And here's what I'm going to say. You make a terrible God. Your spouse makes a terrible God. Your marriage makes a terrible God. Do not look to your marriage to satisfy your souls in ways that only God can satisfy your soul. And what's true is we've been talking a lot to the married people here. But I just want to make it really clear that married or not married, singled, widowed, divorced, married, every single one of us has equal access to the most satisfying, the most fulfilling, the most life-giving reality in all of life. And that's the person of Jesus Christ. That's your creator. He created you. He redeemed you. He lives in you. He's going to bring you home to be with him forever. And you are missing out on nothing that God intends for you if you find your full satisfaction in him. Marriage is not a God. Marriage is a gift from God. And as a gift from God, marriage is a gift that should be enjoyed. But enjoyment is a choice. So how do we move to actually enjoy this gift? And what does it look like to really do that? Well, there's some things that jump out of this passage that I think are just really helpful, and I want to move to them really quick. The first is to maximize the mundane. He said, eat and drink with gladness and joy. Do the normal everyday stuff, but do it with a posture of gladness and joy. Here's what's true. Marriage is like 95% normal everyday stuff. Maybe 98% normal everyday stuff. It's the repeated, boring, not special, small, daily, routine stuff of life. And if you're like waiting to enjoy your marriage until that day when like the kids are just entertaining themselves and it's a beautiful day outside and money's not tight and he's free and she's free and y'all are feeling good toward each other and everything's good. And if you're waiting for that like 1% moment, listen, you're just going to be good luck. That's not real life. He's saying enjoy your life together in the everyday, in the 95%. But we don't like the everyday. We don't like the mundane. The mundane is boring. Nobody brags about what a mundane day they had. And so the problem is in the mundane, which is more than 95% of the time you live together, you don't bring your best. Well, what would happen if you did bring your best and maximize the mundane? I was chauffeur for a day for my family. So one of my kids was having a birthday party for them, and another of my kids was going to a birthday party, and then we had some other things going on. And so I got up at the beginning of the day and I realized I'm going to spend my whole day in the car. Like I'm going to be taking kids to different places all day long. My day's shot. I don't like spending a bunch of time behind the wheel just, carting kids around. So I was like, my day's as good as over, and it already stunk. And I just decided, you know what? It is what it is. It's going to be what it's going to be. What would it be like to try to have fun with it? And so all day long, while I was doing the stuff in the car, like we took turns with the people in the car on Spotify, pick a song and let's listen to it. And maybe while we're listening to it, we'll dance a little bit. It was nice weather, so I rolled the windows down. The breeze felt really good. The clouds looked really nice. I even did the thing. You know what I'm talking about? If you haven't done that in a while, I'm telling you, like, that is just one of the purest little life pleasures. I got to the end of the day. I did no less driving than I anticipated I would do, but I had way more fun because I maximized the mundane. Because I just chose to approach it with an attitude of what if we were a little creative and tried to make it good. And here's what I want to say to you. Your life is functional. Your life is mundane. Your marriage is full of everyday, repeated, boring, daily stuff. What if you approached it with a little creativity and energy and said, let's maximize this? What if on the way to soccer practice, just like every other night, you're going to soccer practice, you're going to watch the kids, but this time you bring a blanket and some KFC. You have a little picnic dinner. Make it special. What if, while it's chores day and you both are doing your stuff around the house, you just go get pumpkin spice something? I don't know, but I've heard pumpkin spice makes everything better. What if you, while you're grocery shopping, split up the list, gamify it, make it a competition. First person to get through all their stuff wins a prize. Y'all are married. You get to pick the prize. You can take normal stuff and make it fun. You can take mundane stuff and maximize it. What if you switch up the seats at the table in your house? What if you switch up who sleeps on which side of the bed? It'd be like being at a hotel for free. Maximize the mundane. Get creative. Put some energy into it. Listen, when that mundane moment starts to sneak up on you and you start to feel yourself saying, I'm doing this marriage, but I'm not enjoying this marriage, you have a choice. Put yourself on autopilot. Let it just continue to be that way. Or maximize the mundane. Ask yourself, what would it look like to mix this up? What would it look like to put some creative energy into this? Listen, I know you can say back to me, like, Jeremiah, that's hard, that's complicated right now. There's a bunch of stuff you can't choose. Yep, you're right. You can't choose that you got 2 young kids. You can't choose that one of you's in grad school. You can't choose that one of you's retired now and the other one's not, so you're not on the same schedules. You can't choose that money's tight, but you can choose to get creative and to maximize the mundane. Don't just do marriage, enjoy marriage, because marriage isn't part of what's mundane. Marriage is the reward that's supposed to make it better. So enjoy the gift. Number two, celebrate frequently. He says, always be clothed in white. Always anoint your head with oil. He's like, dress up, put on the perfume, put on the makeup, go out, do the thing, never skip a party. Introverts just want to die. This is not about always going out. This is not about always being with people. This is about a posture towards saying, I want to frequently celebrate. And I want to find and invent things to frequently celebrate. This just means you are a celebrator of life. And it's more than just the layups, okay? The layups are like anniversaries, birthdays, Valentine's Day, okay? Good players, they don't miss the layups, okay? But good players do more than just make layups. They figure out other things to put in that game to continue to make it even more exciting and even more winning. I used to run a lot of races, and what I would find is like every race has a finish line. And at the finish line, people cheer. And they usually like give you a little medal and a banana or something like that. And it's a celebration at the end of the race. But the races that are the most fun, don't wait the celebration until you've finished it. They put a bunch of people along the way at all these different stops holding signs. It's like, you're doing it. Run, baby, run. You know, all these weird signs and people cheering for you. And you're like, this isn't necessary, but it's nice. Like, this isn't warranted. Like, I'm not running awesome. I don't know why you're cheering for me. But it's encouraging. And the fact is, like, the more little stops of celebration there are along that journey, the more fun that journey ends up being. It's the same in your marriage. You get to choose how often you celebrate things in life. You get to choose what you celebrate in life. But if you find out that like you're saving it for the big things, guess what? Life isn't made up of all big things. It's made up of a lot of little things. Maybe change the criteria of what gets celebrated. Celebrate frequently in life. The author would say life is too short, too uncertain, and too hard to not celebrate what is good. So what's good? Celebrate each other's character. I'm proud of you for doing this or for being this way. I'm proud of you for the way you handled that conversation. Celebrate accomplishments. We made it out of Costco without fighting. Celebrate anniversaries, and not just your wedding anniversary. Like, we've been in the house for 4 years now. Let's go get some mums for the porch to celebrate. We've had the dog for 6 years now. Let's go get, I don't know, whatever people get, dogs. Like, celebrate frequently. Celebrate parenting milestones. Celebrate occasions that happen. How do we celebrate? What's that look like? I don't know what it looks like for you. Maybe you're a high five person. Maybe you're a write them a card person. Maybe you're a go out with friends person. Maybe you are a breakfast in bed person. Maybe you're a date night person. I don't know, but it doesn't really matter what you do. It matters that you do it. Celebrate frequently. How often? How often is the right amount? I don't know, but I'm guessing for most of you, more often. How much better would marriage be? How much more would you enjoy the gift if there were just more celebrations along the way? But Jeremiah, it's not all good things. I mean, our life is not just like full of things that we should celebrate. Like, there's hard things too. There's struggles. There's ways that we're kind of falling short. There's stuff that we haven't figured out. Look, I know. And you probably give those their due attention. But there's good stuff too. And are you giving the good stuff its due attention? Because here's what's true. The more you celebrate, the more you will enjoy the gift. Number three. Act today, not someday. Act today, not someday. This word go at the beginning of the passage is this Hebrew command. Do it now. Go and enjoy your life. And then, of course, you remember at the end of the passage, he's like, whatever your hand finds to do it with all your might, because pretty soon you're going to die and you're not going to be able to. So act today, not someday. A proper perspective of the reality of death helps to inform a proper approach to the opportunities in life. A proper perspective of the reality of death informs our approach to the opportunities in life. And what's true is the more you realize the fact that you don't know if you have tomorrow, the more you're going to treat with urgency the opportunities that you have today. Those are opportunities around evangelism, around discipling your kids, opportunities around generosity, opportunities around a whole bunch of stuff. But listen, you're also going to treat with urgency enjoying each other, because you don't know if you've got tomorrow. So act today, not someday. We've got this great thing in Grace Kids. If you're ever dropping a child off back there, or if you've ever been in a meeting for Grace Kids, they've got these jars with marbles in them. And these jars, they go, you've got 18 years. Let's break that down into weeks. That's the amount of marbles we're going to put in this jar. And imagine you have 18 years with your kids, and every week you pull out a marble. It's this sobering reality. It's this aspirational reality. I mean, it's inspiring. It makes me want to not waste any time. Well, what if I gave you a jar for the amount of time that you guys have, and every week you took one out? Here's the only problem. I don't know how many marbles to put in. Because I don't know, and you don't know how much time you have together. You know life is uncertain. You know you've been surprised before. You know you've seen things happen faster than you were ready for them. So I don't know how many marbles to put in the jar. And he's going, yes, that's exactly why you should act today, not someday. Don't wait for someday to really start enjoying each other. to start enjoying the gift. Someday I want us to go to a marriage conference. Someday I want us to get a camper and travel around. Someday we want to start a business. Someday we want to lead a grace group. Someday we want to mentor a younger couple. Someday we want to see the Swiss Alps. I don't know what your someday dream is, but I know you've got one. And here's the question I have for you. What does it look like to stop saying someday and to start acting today? But Jeremiah, the season we're in, you don't understand. Listen, I know. And I'm not saying that you start the business right now. I'm saying go buy the book right now and start learning the skill set. But start acting today. I'm not saying that you go take the trip right now, but what if you go ahead and open the savings account right now and schedule your garage sale so you can start putting away a little money toward that thing. Act today, not someday. It's scary and it's risky to do that. To take this dream that feels a little safer when it's kind of out in someday land and actually to go, okay, what does it look like to put action to it? That's scary, that's risky. But the author of Ecclesiastes says that's not nearly as risky as waiting on the thing that you got no business betting on because you don't know if it's going to be there for you. And that's tomorrow. Act today, not someday. Now, listen, this is not a call to being frivolous or careless or stupid. I don't want any emails. Pastor Jeremiah, thank you for that message. We both quit our jobs and we're moving to Cancun because you said act today, not someday. No, it's not that. But too many of us spend too much time on the side of the spectrum where we go, someday we'll get around to it. And the author's just saying, you don't know that you have someday. What does it look like to begin with wisdom to act today? Because some of you are doing marriage today, hoping to enjoy marriage someday. Stop waiting. Enjoy the gift now. Enjoy the gift now. Now here's the thing. We've talked about these three ideas. And maximizing the mundane requires creativity and it requires energy. Celebrating frequently requires time and it requires resources. Acting today, not someday, requires discipline and it requires planning. I thought this was supposed to be a talk about enjoyment. That sounds like a whole bunch of work. Oops. It is work. But for all of us who showed up to this series called Pursuit over these last 3 weeks, and if there was something in you that was like, oh good, this will make my marriage better. Here's what we know. A church doing a series doesn't make your marriage better. The principles that we take and we apply them, that's what makes the marriage better. And the power to do that comes from Jesus, who teaches us how to move towards somebody in service, how to put somebody else above ourselves. But at the end of the day, it's still work. It is. Enjoying the gift is going to take work on your part, but you're going to be able after that work to look at each other and go, you know what? Life is hard. Life is uncertain. Life is short. And here we are, enjoying the gift that God has given us as a reward, as a reprieve, as a blessing in the midst of all of that. So your action step this week, I want to start the work now. Your action step this week is this: enjoy the gift. Enjoy the gift. This week, do something enjoyable together. This is good homework. Do something enjoyable together. And here's how I want you to do it. I want you to talk together and decide what it's going to be. I want you to get together and do whatever that thing is. And then I want you to debrief afterwards. What did you think of that? Did you enjoy that? What did you like about that? And what could we do next? Now listen, you do you, okay? Some of you are outdoor adventurers. Some of you are movie marathoners. Some of you are board game nerds. Some of you are foodies. You do you, but enjoy the gift this week. Decide, do, debrief. And listen, we've asked every week, those of you who are here and single, pray for us. This might not sound like something that you would go, why would I want to pray for them in that? But can I tell you, there's so much potential fruit that could come from this. for married couples really choosing to enjoy the gift, can I ask you to pray that the enjoying of the gift of marriage would be rich in the lives of married couples here at Grace? Would you do that if you're single? Married people, enjoy the gift. Here's the thing about gifts. I've talked a lot about the idea that marriage is a gift. I've had times when I've given gifts to my kids. Recently, my younger kids, they have this obstacle course thing that is attached to a couple trees in our backyard. They've been asking me to get them some new pieces for that. Asking. So I finally get them the new pieces. And I'm watching them play with the gift. I'm watching them go out and enjoy the gift. And as they're interacting with that thing and doing it and enjoying it, I'm loving seeing that, but that's incomplete. You know what made it complete? When one of them walked back to me and stood in front of me and put his head, leaned in for a hug and said, "Thanks, Dad." Because what he realized in that moment is it's not just about him and the gift and enjoying it. There's a giver in the mix. And that gift is a reflection of the heart of the giver, the love of the giver, the generosity of the giver. And he brought it full circle. And here's the thing about gifts. Good gifts point us to a good God. Good gifts point us to a good God. I'm asking that we would not just enjoy the gift, but appreciate the giver. Recognize the goodness of the heart of God toward you in that he would give you a gift like a marriage to steward, like a chance to enjoy what he's given you to enjoy. And so I want to wrap it up like this. We're here at the end of 3 weeks of this series. There's been some funny stuff. There's been some weird stuff. There's been some kiss cam stuff. There's been some hard stuff. Can I just ask you, if you're married and sitting by your spouse, would you just reach out, hold a hand right now? Maybe put an arm around. I just want to wrap up in prayer. Father, as we are here at this place, we want to thank you for the gift of marriage. We want to thank you that good gifts are a reflection of the good heart of a good God. And we want to ask you to help us to enjoy that gift to the full, but also to see your goodness in it. Father, I know that over the course of this series, there's been some hard things. There's been some deficiencies that have been uncovered. There's been some things that are going to result in tough conversations. And in all of that, we ask for forgiveness. We ask for healing. We ask for determination. We ask for progress, so that our marriages would be a reflection that you want them to be, so that people wouldn't just see a good marriage. They'd see the glory of a good God. We pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.